Hey guys, it's Wade here. I thought I'd do a quick video on my headrests. I've been thinking about this for a few years now on how to exactly attach these headrests to whatever surface they're being attached to. They come with Velcro on the back, like this guy right here. And as you can see from the profile, it's pretty thick, and I don't want this bulky Velcro in between the headrest and like up here, the pilot headrest up here. And it's rounded, and then when you add that Velcro, it just makes it even thicker and bulkier, and it doesn't really sit flat. So what I'm going to be doing for at least this lower guy on the front pilot headrest here, and then on this guy back here, I'm getting ready to plasma cut some aluminum panels, and this one's going to be pretty much the whole entire shape of this guy and back headrest going up and around this arch, and I will slide it in behind the pad, and then there's going to be 3 small screws on each side that will hold this and secure it tightly to this. And then up front here, this opens up for storage. So I had to make 2 different pads. Again, the lower pad here, which is going to be hard mounted. And then I'm trying to figure out, I don't really want to go with Velcro, so I'm still brainstorming on how this guy is going to go up here. Now, if there's actually enough room, the gap is big enough here where I can have this guy hard mounted and this guy hard mounted, then I'll go ahead and do that. So that's pretty much what this video is about. We'll get into some plasma cutting, and then a little bit later I'll show you these guys mounted. Okay, so I have the guy in back headrest plate file loaded up. As you can see, I've got a lot of lightning holes in it to lighten that sucker up, still give it some strength and rigidity. Now, I'm a bit loath to film plasma cutting because sometimes due to a little bit of a superstition that sometimes when I'm filming things it doesn't seem to quite work out. Alright, so here we go. Pardon the water, I just refilled it, and it was pretty much bone dry, so there was a lot of rust in there. So I figured out my issue. There was a guy on the Langmuir Systems forum that had a post-processing plug-in where it would find the center of the hole and just blast a center, kind of like a center punch, just to identify where the hole is. And I tried that out, but I've since upgraded this this program probably 2 or 3 times since I downloaded that, and I was trying it out to see if it would work. So when it wasn't firing, it was just kind of going through the motion of doing those center punches. And so then when I went ahead and let it run, because I could see that it was going through and hitting the holes. It then went ahead and did the first half, and then it lost torch height control, which it does that occasionally. You can kind of hear in the video it moving up and down. There's a little bit of rust in there. It needs a very thorough cleaning, so I think it just needs to literally get the rust knocked off of it. Here is that plate, and again, that will go, I'll unzip that. I'm going to take that Velcro off, and that plate will slide right up in there, obviously, once I clean it up. Not a big deal with those holes. You know, I'll just go through by hand and measure them and then drill them, and then I'm going to put a nut plate on the forward side of this thing. So this guy is good. Very little dross. Cut right through the sticker. This is 50 thousandths. 6061, by the way. Okay, so I have two smaller plates. Because of the way that the zipper is right here, I can't slide a plate up from the bottom, so I have to get it at an angle. So there will be a plate about an inch thick or high on the bottom that goes across, and then kind of a half moon looking plate that will follow the top edge, and then it kind of curves down and around. And I'll put a nut plate in each corner that holds this off, and I'm going to take this Velcro off of each of these. So this will be the first of two. This will be the bottom that goes in here, and then I'm going to do the top. And then I've got one more thing that I'm going to do as well, not related to the headrest. It's a relay plate that's going to go on the Tri-Paragon up in front of the panel to hold a series of relays. Okay, here is that plate right there. Looking good. All right, so here we have the last insert that will go on the top here. If you all could stop bringing me bad luck, we can get through this. I, of course, am not going to take any responsibility for any failures here. All right, let's do this. Yeah, that was totally my fault. I wanted to make sure I had enough room earlier, so I had this set on dry run. So we'll take that off. Go back to our work zero. All right, now we should be good. Let's do this for real this time. That air coming out is to cool the plasma nozzle. Let's check this out. See what we got here. Looking good. Because these are so small and they're very light, I of course did not put any lightning holes in these guys. And I didn't mess around with trying to center punch these holes with the plasma cutter. I'll just figure out what plate nuts I have on hand, and then I'll go from there. But looking good. I've got one more to do. Again, that's for an electrical Tri-Paragon for a relay bank. I went ahead and cut this out of the same 50 thousandths as all of this. Just makes it easy since I have all the numbers already dialed in. This, of course, is a 3D printed mock-up, and I've got the holes in there both for lightning and then also to help cool the relays from the bottom side. And I've got 3 mounting holes in here for some 3/16 AN3 style hardware. Anyway, I'll just show you this, and then this should be the last of all the identified 3D printing. I'm sure I'll come up with something later on that I need to do, but this is pretty much it. All right, here we have it on our screen. It's all loaded up, ready to go. We'll fire this guy off. These are those center piercing on the holes, which it's not doing for whatever reason. I will say that on the forum there were a lot of people that said they were having issues with it. It worked for me originally, but it might be because I've upgraded the firmware since then. Alright, got another alarm. Retry this cut. Wow. Guess I need to clean this sucker or something, huh? After the plane is flying. After the plane is flying. What's the primary thing? Get this plane in the air. And there it is. Pretty cool how these are welded onto here. My friend's daughter loves to come over and help me clean out this table because there's a million little pieces of metal in there and she likes to play investigator to see what those are. So we have that, and you can see that I straightened this out and centered these holes up on this one. Not a big deal. It didn't do the little piercings. That's fine. I'll just set each relay on there with using the 3D printed guy as a template, and then just hand drill them, which I was going to do anyway. I was just going to show me where. All right, looking good. Again, this should be the last of the plasma cutting, at least anything I have on my list at this point, pressing forward. So here we have the guy in back headrest pad. I use this stitch ripper right here to remove the Velcro tabs on the back of this guy. I cleaned up this plate and then I test fit it up in here. Now, the foam inside of this pad is sticky, like there's some glue residue or glue or whatever on it. So putting this up inside of there, and then I really took a little bit of effort to get this sucker back out, but I wanted to make sure it fit. Now, when I did get this thing up in there, it was a little bit off in an angle just because you're pushing it any which way it'll go in there. And so where it ends up may not be 90 degrees, you know, it might not be parallel to center line of the pad. It might be off just a hair just because of that stickiness and the glue and the pressure, because this is a tight fit in there. So what I did was I took the original outline that I did to create this in CAD, and I fine-tuned it so that it's exactly the outline with the holes on there. If this thing is a little bit off center, however it sits, this will go in first, and then I'll find these holes, and on the recommendation of Oregon Aero, because this is leather, I'll actually burn the holes through with a soldering iron, basically to kind of cauterize this leather. So again, this may be off just a hair, and then knowing where those holes are, I can adjust this pattern for how this is going to sit exactly the way it should on the cover of the headrest on the aircraft that this is going to attach to. Just an afterthought, but these are the K1006 anchor plates. I was going to use the K1004s for the 440. I thought that would be fine, but A, I didn't have that many of them, and B, they're a heck of a lot more expensive than the 1006s for replacing, so I just went ahead and went with a slightly larger screw, which has more holding power, and it's probably got about the same profile, and they're a heck of a lot cheaper to replace. So there's your 6 K1006s on there to secure this sucker on there. Okay, sports fans, I've got this mounted for the guy in back headrest pad. It's fairly centered. like I said, the pad was off a little bit. I already knew that just looking at the seam on the back side of the pad. So I kind of had to do a little bit of educated swagging when I put this on. The main reference point I was using was the upper holes here, and then just trying to get this equidistant from both sides right here, just to get it looking fairly dialed in. So what I did was I taped my template after I soldered my holes. Here's a picture of that. So that left me with my drill template exactly where the hole marks were for that guy, and it worked out. It's on there, it's centered. I used these -6 screw / bolts, and I'll go back through. I wanted to get some washers, I couldn't find them, but I wanted to get this thing mounted. They lined up fairly easily, and so this guy's on there. I'm very happy. So here the headrest pad is in place on the bird, as you can see. Along the bottom, which is just the design, or the make, I guess, not the design, but how the pad was made, there's this turn up here, kind of a smile, and that's just the way the pad is. I mean, it's not perpendicular with the center line on this bottom here. So there's a little bit of a turn up and then a scrunch, but that's just how it is. If I were to make that line level, then the top of the pad would be over that way, as you can tell. But it looks good. I'm happy with it. Okay, sports fans, moving along with this little exercise. This is the bottom pad of the pilot headrest. If you look at it, it's not perfectly symmetrical either, just like the gallon back headrest. There's actually a little bit of a slope on the top here, so when this gets put on, it will not be exactly perfect. But I've again used the seam ripper here to remove the 2 strips of Velcro. Now, when I was assessing this, because of the internal dimensions, the walls and the floor of that headrest, I decided that instead of going horizontally here and having to bring the anchor nuts down to the very corners, and there's not a lot more to go up here. I could have done that, but I decided that I wanted to go along the vertical edge. So I hand jammed another one of these. It's a slightly different shape. It's a little bit longer, a little bit narrower. I wanted to make sure it fit, so I went ahead after I riveted those anchor nuts on, and I went ahead and slid it in place so it's in here. I just wanted to show you the other side. So this was originally the bottom, and I'm going to turn it vertical like that. So this is gone, not going to use that. So I will report back in a little bit. All right, folks, the pilot lower headrest pad is mounted just like the guy in back headrest. It's got 4 number 6 screws holding it in place in the corners. A little offset to miss this hinge up here, obviously to miss the floor of this headset or headrest, and then you have the side walls that had to come in a little bit. So they're all inset just a hair. Because this isn't one solid plate, it's 2 separate plates. When I tried to screw it into place, the inside plates were moving a little bit, and I was hoping it wouldn't do that, but they did. And my backup plan, which I had to utilize because they did do that, was I just ran a bead of hot glue on the inside to glue the plate. I put the screws in place and then ran the bead of hot glue to secure the plate to the back leather on the back side, and then that worked fine. So I've got these, you can see, like I said, this slopes down just a hair opposite of that guy, which slopes up just a hair, but that's fine. I think it'll look good. And then again, I'll figure this guy out. I don't think I'm going to be able to hard mount it, so I'll think of something. It's not super critical. Right now, I have my right wing is getting buffed out downtown. I've got a guy that's wet sanding and buffing these things out, making them look pretty nice and shiny, as you can see here. I've got the left wing is going in probably in a few days to get buffed out. I'll bring the right wing back. The canopy is at the fill shop right now as well. Anyway, there's the back. Those seat pads in the back for the guy in the back, gal in the back, those are installed. And so now I've got this installed. I'm moving my way forward. Hey, thanks for watching. Cheers.